Yeah, very good morning. And we have dealt with Riemann integral, okay? And we have seen that when you will say a function is Riemann integrable, if when it has satisfies certain conditions, means you will calculate the lower integral, lower Riemann sum, upper Riemann sum, and then lower Riemann integral, upper Riemann integral if they are equal, okay? Then we will say that function is Riemann integrable. Okay, and we have listed out some of the properties of definite integral there as well. Scalar multiple of a Riemann integrable function is also Riemann integrable, and how that is related with the Riemann integrable, that integral of f. Okay, so I'm just listing out the properties of definite integrals here. Okay, so I'm just going to list out the properties of definite integrals. So there are two type of integrals. One is definite and another is indefinite. Okay. So definite integral is an integral when of type, you can say integration a to b f of x dx, where this a and b are finite real number, and that f remains f, you can say does not have any discontinuity over this interval a to b. Okay, so then you will say that integral is definite integral. Okay, so some of the properties, or you can say definitions, are attached. That the first okay, so let me assume that let f and g be in this class Riemann integrable over this closed interval. Then one may define, this is a definition, integration a to b f of x dx. If you change the order of the limit, you will obtain the negative sign. Okay, so this is a definition. You can treat that as a definition. Okay, second property is that if you take integration a to a f of x dx, that's equals to 0. That you can understand by looking at the area, right, over the interval of length 0. You can actually this establish, okay, by using the Riemann integrals. Okay, so this is, you can say, definition. Then we have also seen that integration a to b k time f of x dx is equals to k time integration a to b f of x dx. You can just take simply k outside. Okay, then next property is sum of two integrable function is integrable, difference of two integrable function is integrable. That also you can show. Okay, so that's a fourth property. So integration a to b f of x plus minus g of x dx, you can obtain integration a to b f of x dx plus minus integration a to b g of x dx. So plus correspond to plus sign and minus correspond to minus sign. That we have also listed out this property. If you have the breaking point a to c f of x dx plus integration c to b f of x dx, and if f is Riemann integrable over the entire interval a to b and c is some point in between a to b. Okay, so this will be is equals to integration a to b f of x dx. So here you can say that a c is such that a is less than c less than. That is Riemann integrable over the entire interval a to b. So you can prove that it is also Riemann integrable over a to c and c to b, and that is you can establish. Then other property is so f is Riemann integrable, so it is necessarily bounded. Okay, so you have m less than equals to f of x less than equals to capital M for all x belongs to closed interval AB. So there exists some m. Okay, for some m comma capital M in R. Okay, because f is Riemann integrable, it is necessarily bounded. Then we have also shown that m time b minus a is less than equals to integration a to b f of x dx less than equals to capital M time b minus a. That's very, that can be shown by, so we have already shown that m time b minus a is less than equals to LFP less than equals to UFP less than equals to m time b minus a. So we can actually show there m time b minus a is less than equals to L of f less than equals to u of f less than equals to capital M time b minus a, because that relation holds for any partition of AB. Okay, so since f is Riemann integrable, so then L of f and u of f both are the same thing and it will follow the immediately. Okay, now if the function is non-negative, okay, so the next property is, you can say seventh one, let f of x is greater than equals to 0 for all x in closed interval A. So then you can show that integration a to b f of x dx is also greater than equals to 0. So whenever f is Riemann integrable, so that you can see this integration a to b f of x dx is nothing but the limit of UFPN. And you know that if UFPN, if you try to calculate, okay, so if you look at back, what is the definition of UFPN is equals to summation, something like k is equals to 1 to n mk time delta xk. So when f is non-negative, so this capital MK is also non-negative. So this always greater than 0 for all n. So you know that if a sequence, if you have a sequence of non-negative real numbers, its limit is also non-negative. Okay, so it's nothing but the limit. So you can establish the result by using that result here. Okay, now with this, immediately you can show that if let f of x is greater than equals to g of x for all x belongs to closed interval AB. This geometrically what it means is f of x is lies above the curve G. Okay, then certainly the area covered by f is going to be more than the area covered by G. If they both are positive, then only you can talk about the area. So then integration a to b f of x dx is greater than equals to integration a to b g of x dx. So this can be followed by using this. You define h is equals to f of x minus g of x, and which is greater than equals to 0, and use the linearity of the function f of the integral. Okay, then you will obtain this result. Okay, right. So these are the properties of definite integral. Okay, now what we are interested in, some of the applications of integration. Okay, so some of the application you are already aware about it, like area under the curve. Okay, so if you have, so let's look at some application of integration. The first application is, you can say, area under the curve, that we are already have seen. Okay, so here the curve is let's say given by y equals to f of x. Okay, and we have already shown that if this f of x is greater than equals to 0 on closed interval AB, then if you denote A by area, then A is equals to integration A to B f of x dx. Okay, so this we have already seen. Now, suppose the curve is instead of Cartesian coordinate, it is in polar form. Okay, so this is how it is obtained is nothing but this limit. You have this is n tends to infinity, or you can write summation k is equals to 1 to n f of xk times delta xk. If you recall, this was the Riemann sum in the limiting sense. At the height xk, this delta xk is the one of them. Okay, left hand point of right hand point of the interval. Okay, we are assuming that f is Riemann integrable. Okay, the properties are so. Okay, now, so can I use the same idea for the polar curve? Okay, so in the polar curve, if you look at the polar arc here, so instead of rectangle, you will have a polar rectangle. Okay, so polar rectangle are like this. So you have this is theta term. Okay, this is r. Okay, so what is the here is cell is what is the area? So you can see this is a part of a circle, so it's going to be pi r square, but multiply by, so it's a part of theta by 2 pi. Okay, so theta out of 2 pi relatively, right? So that's going to be, so r square times theta by 2. Okay, so area of this polar rectangle, this is known as polar rectangle. So now instead of theta, we are going to, theta is looks like, so we are going to take, it's a small element. Okay, so for varying it, so we can make it as instead of theta, theta. So that will vary this limit. So if you let's say let theta limit is alpha less than equals to theta less than equals to beta. Okay, so what will be the area is integration alpha to beta. Okay, the area of this is nothing but r square d theta by 2. So that will give you the in the polar form, okay, the area under the curve. So 1 by 2 times r square d theta. So here the equation is r is equals to function of theta. Okay, so looking in the polar form. Okay, and these are called polar rectangle. Okay, so earlier you were usually defined as a Cartesian coordinate rectangles are having some area, right, width into length of the rectangle. Now here is the something different. This is called polar rectangle because here this is going to be like this curve. Okay, so right, so this will give you the area under the curve for this. Okay, now let's look at one example. Okay, so let's take one example. Okay, find the area under the curve y equals to x over the interval 0 to b. Some b is greater than 0. You can fix this b as well. So you have a line y is equals to x. So you have this is y equals to x. Okay, so this is x equals to 0, and let's say this is equals to b. Okay, let's say this is b. So you want to estimate the area of this under this curve, bounded by the x-axis and this. Okay, is above the x-axis, so certainly x is greater than equal to 0. Okay, and so the area is nothing but integration 0 to b x dx. So that's going to be x square by 2. That's integration 0 to b. So that's going to be b square. So you can actually go for the Riemann integral. Okay, summation, approximation, and then take the, you divide into a sequence of partition with equidistant. So that the length, the equidistant is like you are going to the step size is h equals to b minus a by n, but a is 0, so this is b by n. So the points are x naught is equals to a is equals to x naught, so 0 equals to x naught less than x1. Okay, so x1 is, or you can say xk is equals to x naught plus k time h. So that is x, that is equals to k time b by n. Okay, and here k is 1, k is equals to 1, 2, and so on n minus 1. Okay, and obviously xn will become, when you take k equals to n, that is going to be b. Okay, and you subdivide into the rectangles, okay, this region, and take the limit. Okay, that will also give you the same answer. Okay, what we have dealt with earlier. Start again. So let's say you are interested in the finding the area bounded by the following curve. A is equals to 1 plus cos theta, where a is greater than 0 and theta values are 0 less than equals to theta less than equals to pi. So then, if you recall, what will be the formula here? 1 by 2 integration 0 to pi r square d theta. Now, r is what? A into 1 plus cos theta. So that's going to be 1 by 2 integration 0 to pi. So that's a square. And the 1 plus cos theta whole square is 1 plus cos square theta plus 2 cos theta d theta. Now you can write cos square theta as 1 plus cos 2 theta by 2, and you can integrate it. Okay, so a square, so first integration will give a square pi by 2 plus a square by 4. You have 1 plus 2 cos theta integration 0 to pi d theta plus a square integration 0 to pi cos theta. Okay, now integration will take place. Now a square pi by 2 plus a square by 4 pi. Okay, plus 2 cos theta integration is sin theta, sin pi and sin 0 both are 0. So this term will not contribute anything, and this term will also not contribute anything. So what you will remain with is this is going to be 2 plus 1. So 3 by 4 a square pi. So that will be the area under this polygon. Okay. Now, if you recall that fact that when you're talking about the average value, so how will you take the average value? Is total sum divided by the length of the interval. Okay. So if you recall from the Riemann integration, that you can certainly have UFTN. That is going to be, you have summation k is equals to 1 to n and k delta xk. Or you can consider the L of FPN. So we are assuming that f is Riemann integrable. So either one is fine. So if I want to find the average value, you should divide it by 1 upon b minus a. So in the limiting sense, what is the average value of function? Okay, that is going to be, so in the limiting case, it's going to be 1 by b minus a integration a to b f of x dx. Okay, means total area divided by the length of the interval. Okay, so this you can treat as a definition of finding average value of a function. Okay, so here is the definition. If f is Riemann integrable, okay, then average value of f is equals to 1 upon b minus a integration a to b f of x. Okay, right. So you can certainly look at the, so we are going to look at one example for this case. Okay, right. So let's take one example. Let's say find the average value of Find the average value of the function f of to square root of 4 minus x square on the interval minus 2 to 2. I wish to find out. Now, if you look at this function, okay, so what is this function? If you recall, this is when if you draw on this xy plane, it's a part of a circle, and it is from minus 2 to 2. Okay, and upper part of the circle, so that's square root of 4 minus x square plus y square equals to 4. Okay, so I know what will be the area of this half circle is pi r square by 2. So what is r here is 2. So certainly you have minus 2 to 2 f of x dx. If you try to verify, that's going to be pi r square. What is r is 2. So 4 by 2. So that's going to be 2 pi. Now the average value is going to be 1 upon the length of the interval is 4 time integration minus 2 to 2 f of x dx. So that's going to be pi by 2. Okay, so now so far we have only worked with the single curve. So there may be multiple curves. So suppose two curves are there, or you are interested in finding the area between two curves. Okay, so you should investigate which one is the above curve, okay, or which one is the lower curve. Okay, and then you will be able to identify the area between them curve. Okay, so if you look at this, let's say this graph here. So I have, let's say this is the function f and this is the function. So this is a to b. Or you have, let's say this is a function g. Okay, this is gx, and that is a f of x. So here it is throughout the interval, what is there is f of x is greater than equals to g of x on closed interval AB. Both are continuous, we are assuming. Okay, so they are Riemann integrable. So I am interested in finding this area. Okay, so this will be area, if you look at this geometry here, so the area covered by f minus the area covered by g. Okay, so that will give you the area of this region. So means for this area, integration a to b f of x minus g of x dx. Okay, so that you have to identify by looking into the graph of the curve. Okay, so sometimes it may be complicated. So when one means sometimes what will happen is some part is above, some part is lower. Okay, so then also that will also you will get an idea by looking at the graph of the curve. So you have to create separately. Then suppose somewhere f of x is greater than equals to g of x, and then suppose what will happen is let f of x is greater than equals to g of x on a to c, and f of x is less than equals to g of x on c to b. Okay, then how will you handle this case? Okay, so in this case, suppose this c is a midpoint. Okay, suppose c is a midpoint. If you consider this only f of x minus g, it will give you the area is 0. Okay, because that will get cancelled. Okay, right. So how will you have to handle is on this interval a to c, then area is equals to integration a to c. For this c, you have this f of x minus g of x dx plus integration c to b. Then here g is the above curve, so g of x minus f of x dx. F of x dx. Okay, so similarly for the polar curve. Okay, similarly you can find the area between the curves. Okay, for polar arcs as well. So this is area between two curves. It means in curves. We are talking about in Cartesian coordinate. Okay. Now in the polar coordinates, so you have, let's say, two here, r is equals to f1 of theta, and you have another is let's say r equals to, or you have r1 is equals to f1 of theta, r2 is equals to f2 of theta. Okay. So but limit both the cases alpha less than, if you are going to find the area between alpha less than equals to theta less than equals to beta. So certainly you need to identify which one is above or which one is lower. So means what will be the case here is like this. Okay. So you are interested in finding this area. Okay. So this is your R1, let's say, and that is also is total is, this is going to be R2. Okay. So theta remains same. This is your theta. Okay, so what, how will you find out? So you will find out the area by R2 minus area by R1. Okay, so then area is going to be 1 by 2. So for this case, integration of R2 square d theta alpha to beta minus 1 by 2 integration alpha to beta R square d theta. Okay, R is going to be by 2 integration alpha to beta R2 square minus R1 square dt. Okay, right. So here these are the simple applications of the area under the curve. So I'm not going to take any example here. Okay. Now, what is another application of integration is to find a volume of a solid. So means like suppose you have a solid. Okay, let's say you have a solid. Okay, means you have, this is certainly you have the solid, so x, y, z, you can say. Okay, and so how will you identify the volume of this solid? By using the area, this Riemann integral or approximation. So means you are having a planar curve, plane curve which is intersecting this. So you will certainly able to identify a cross section. Okay, so suppose that cross section is integrable. Okay, and it is area is, so you have, this is, you can say here instead of x, y, z, so let's say this is z and this is x and this is y for simple case. So we are here to mention from A to B, x is from A to B. Okay, so now if you are able to identify the volume of this, what will be the volume here is, if you have the cross-sectional area into width of the interval. So you take the partitions. Okay, so say this is the area is A of x. Let's say this cross-sectional area is A of x and width of the interval is dx. And if you integrate it over the interval A to B, that will give you the volume of this solid. Okay, so this is a planar curve which is so this is a P, you can say planar curve, a plane which is intersecting the solid. So you will definitely identify a cross section. Okay, whose area, let's say, you know. Okay, so if you know, if you multiply area with the width of, okay, you can say height. Okay, area into height dx. Okay, that cross section if you take. Okay, the dx is the height, means which you, when you divide into the partition. Okay, then this will total will give you the volume of this part. Then you vary from A to B, that will give you the total volume of the solid. Okay, this is known as volume by slicing. Okay, volume by slicing of a solid. Okay, right. So here it is understood that A of x is a continuous function. Okay, it's continuous. It's not discontinuous function. Okay, right. So let's take a one example. Okay, so let's consider a pyramid. So let's consider a pyramid of 3 meter height and has a square base that is 3 meter on a side. Okay, so this is X, this is Y, and this is Z. So pyramid looks like here. Okay, so this will be, okay, this is in XY plane, and you have, this is okay, right. It's like I can you have, this is here. So this is here is 3. So this is square base with the 3. It's like giving you, and the cross section of the pyramid is perpendicular to the altitude x meter down from the vertex. It is square x meter on a side. So you have, this is going to be perpendicular to x-axis. Okay, so it means like x-axis is the, you can say it is passing, it's the rotational axis, you can say in a simple word. Okay, right. So it's in the middle, is passing through the x-axis where this 3 point is intersecting. This x equals to 0 to x equals to 3. And if you consider any inside this, any cross section is going to be a square of x meter altitude, you can say x meter. Okay, and whose area is, so this is area A. Okay, this is A of x, whose area is what? This area is x square. Now, what will be the volume of this pyramid is going to be integration 0 to 3 x square dx. So you are going to vary this from 0 to 3, x value from 0 to 3, and then means that, along with this cross section. Okay, so that will give you, that's equals to x cubed by 3, and that's going to be 9 meter cube. Okay, right. Now, the another application we want to consider is, you have, this is going to be volume of a solid of revolution. Means let's consider rotation about the x-axis. Okay, so what is happening is, so you have, this is plane, xy plane. Okay, and let's have, this is you can say, for example, let's assume that this is the curve A of x, because we want to consider the rotation about the x-axis, and this is 0, and let's say this is B. Okay, right. Okay, let's say this is the some curve given by this f of x, you can say of x. Okay, right. Now if you rotate it about the x-axis, so this is maybe from 0 to B, or it may be some from for example, I'm taking here 0 to B. Now if you rotate it about the x-axis, so that will give you the solid of revolution. Okay, so that will give you the solid of revolution. Now what will be the volume here is, so you are going to use the cylinder. Okay, so how the volume will of the cylinder will be there is pi r square h. We have the r is the base radius and h is the height. Okay, now here at each point you can find out the height. Okay, so you can find out this height is like, if you can say, if you cut it by the plane curve. Okay, so you will certainly find out anywhere is going to be the this cross section, which is again, this is AX. So whose area is now, if you recall, this is going to be pi time f of whole square. Right? Because at each point here, so here the height is what? F of x. So r, you can say radius, okay, of this space is going to be r is nothing but x at this point x. So what will be the area of this cross section is pi time f of x square. And if you multiply by the width of this cross section, that will give you the total volume of this solid of this revolution. So what you are doing is you are revolving this curve f of x about the x-axis over the interval a to b. Okay, so one of the example. Okay, so this will give you. This is one example. You can see another example. You can also take. It may not be 0. So you have, this is going to be, let's say maybe you have the curve like this, y equals to f of x. Okay, and so that will means if you rotate it about the x-axis, or what will be, you are going to have, this is going to be the kind of cylinder. Okay, and again that at any cross section, if you look at, if you again, this is a slicing method. Okay, so this cross section has the area as pi times f of x whole square. So here in this case, so this suppose this is a and this is b. So integrate b pi times f of x whole square dx will give you the total volume of this solid, this generated solid. Okay, right. So let me give you one example. Okay. Let's calculate the volume of a sphere. Okay. Means if you look at this example, so you have, this is x, y, and z. So you have this sphere here, which is x square plus y square plus z square equals to a square. You can see. Okay. Now, if you make any planar curve, okay, and if you cut it, okay, so if you take any planar curve and if you intersect this sphere by a planar curve, so what you will obtain, the cross section is nothing but x square plus y square equals to a square, the circle. Okay, so what you will obtain is x square plus y square equals to a square. Okay, right. So now, so now this circle area is, you know, right? What is the area of the circle is pi a square, right? Okay, so means the volume of this is going to be, so you can find, so here you can also look at this as you can say, if you I just want to draw one more graph here. So this is your x square plus y square equals to a square. Okay, this is a, you can have center at origin, and this is a. Okay, now this is x and y. Now if you rotate it about the x-axis, that will generate the sphere. Okay, so if you rotate it by about the x-axis, it will give you the sphere. So what will be the volume of the sphere is can be found out. So this is minus a to a. So if you find out the area, that's minus a to a time pi r square. So what is at any way point, what is the r is square root of a square minus x square. So r square is a square minus x square time dx. Okay, this will give you the volume of the sphere, and that you can verify that that's going to be 4 by 3 pi a cube. Okay, now, right. Now, another application which I want to mention here is one or two application more we want to mention. So finding the length of the plane curve. Okay. So another application is length of plane curves. Okay, so let's consider here. So this is your f of x, and this is interval a to b. I'm interested in, instead of area, I'm interested in the length of the curve. Okay, now, so this is equals to, so what we can say is, you can take any, so length of the curve is going to be measured by the small straight line. Okay, so you are going to subdivide into the partitions, which is with the with equal length is, let's say, dx. Okay, now you take here, so the dx on this length, let's say this is the part you take. Okay, now if you write down, this is going to be the right angle triangle. When you draw the parallel to x-axis and parallel to y-axis, and this is, you are considering a very small element, so that this will be a straight line. Okay, so this is a right angle triangle whose base is dx, whose perpendicular is dy. So certainly you can identify this length is square root of dx square plus dy square. And if you integrate it over the interval a to b, this integration will give you the length of this curve. Okay, now you can fix accordingly, means like whether the curve is y equals to f of x or x equals to f of y. Okay, so if y is equals to f of x, you can certainly able to identify what is dy by dx. If x equals to function of y, you can able to find out dx by dy. So you have to work accordingly. So this you can write in the two form. So one form is integration a to b. I can write it as 1 plus dy by dx whole square dx. Another form is also, you can write as integration a to b, or this x lies between a to b. If you look at here, this is going to be somewhere, you have, this is c to d. So when you have, so this is c to d square root of 1 plus dx by dy whole square d. So either way, okay, so you can work with it. Now, if it is in Cartesian form, so this I can write here, whenever you have been given with y equals to f of x, and this is whenever you are given with x equals to function of. Now, suppose the parametric form is known, it's like in the polar form. Okay, okay, so this curve is in parametric form. Okay, let's say x equals to function of t and y equals to function of t. So let's say parametric form, so that will cover polar form as well. So parametric form, let's say x equals to f of t and y equals to g of t. A is less than equals to t, less than equals to t. So one way is find out one way is, if you want to use the previous result, find out y as a function of x or x as a function of y, and then accordingly limit also and fix in the formula. Or in other hand, so if you are going to denote this L by length, and if I going to work with this same in the dx square plus dy square still. Now what I can do is, from here I can easily obtain what is dx by dt and what is dy by dt. So that I can certainly write square root of dx by dt whole square. These are small elements, dy by dt whole square. So dt square out of square root is dt, and you know that limit of t is a to b. So this will give you the parametric form of the length of the plane. Okay, right. So for this, you can consider the following example. find the length of the circle of radius r. Okay, means x equals to r cos t and y equals to r sin t. And that you are already aware about that, that is 2 pi r, right? 0 less than t less than 2 pi. Okay, now from here, what is dx by dt is minus r sin t. What is dy by dt is r time cos t. Now, this will imply if you square these things and add them. So, this will imply dx by dt whole square plus dy by dt whole square is equals to, so r square sin square t plus r square cos square t. So, r square is out, cos square t plus sin square t is 1. So, this equals to r square. Now, limit of t is given to you 0 to 2 pi. So, you can apply this formula. So, the length of this circle of radius r will be, this implies L equals to integration 0 to 2 pi, okay, square root of dx by dt whole square plus dy by dt whole square time dt. So, that is equals to integration 0 to 2 pi, square root of r square is r dt. Now, r is independent of t. So, when we are taking as a function of r and t, so r and t are independent variables. Okay, right. So, that's going to be r time, so dt integration 2 pi r. That will give you the r. Okay, right. Now, if it is in the polar form, so in the polar form, this also cover the polar form. So, if I want to mention specifically, so polar form, if it is given, means r is equals to function of theta. And theta limit is alpha less than equals to theta less than equals to beta. So, that you can show that, just you verify the following. Dx by d theta whole square plus dy by d theta whole square is going to be r square plus dr by d theta whole square. Okay, so that you verify that you wrong. Okay, that's very simple because you know that x equals to r cos theta, y equals to r sin theta, and okay, and treat their r as a function of theta. Okay, what we are, so now r and theta are not independent. So r is a function of theta. You have to treat r as a function of theta. Okay, and differentiate, take the square and take the square and add them. You will find able to find out the formula. Okay, right. So these are the things for definite integrals. Okay, right. So finally, we are going to state now what do you mean by improper, or you can say indefinite, also sometimes indefinite integrals. Okay, so there are two types of improper integral. So type 1 is you have the integral of type integration a to b f of x dx. Okay. Okay. Now, if f is continuous on a to infinity, okay, then so if one of the limit is infinite, you can say, okay, then in that case, how will you evaluate integration a to infinity f of x dx is by following this limit b tends to infinity integration a to b f of x. Okay, right. If f is continuous on this, so means f is Riemann integrable over this any finite length interval. You find out the integral value and then apply the limit of b tends to infinity. Okay, right. So if this limit exists, Okay, if this limit exists, then we say that this improper integral converges. Otherwise, we will say it diverges. Now, if f is continuous, similarly, you can define for continuous on minus infinity to b, then integration minus infinity to b f of x dx is equals to defined as limit a tends to minus infinity integration a to b f of x dx. So in a similar manner, you will do that. Now, if f is continuous on all real line, you can say, okay, then how will you define this? Okay, that's the third thing. That third point is, if f is continuous on R, or you can say on minus infinity to infinity, then integration minus infinity to infinity f of x dx. You have to decide one of the breaking point minus infinity to c f of x dx plus integration c to infinity f of x. You subdivide the interval into two parts. Okay, and then you apply that. This is a type, means like one only. Okay, and it is belonging to the second part, and it is belonging to the first part. Accordingly, you want. Okay, so that's going to be limit. I want to complete a tends to minus infinity integration a to c f of x dx plus limit b tends to infinity integration c to b f of x. So this integral will converge if and only if these both will converge here. So, okay, so if one of them will diverge, so its total it diverges. Okay, right. Now, so this is the case when you have one of the limit is infinite limit. Okay. Now another type is type 2 is you are talking about means non-finite interval. Okay, means like finite length interval. Okay, but at some point its function is not continuous. Okay, so type 2 of type interval is if f is continuous on open interval a close b, means it is and is discontinuous at a. Then integration a to b f of x dx is equals to defined as, see, this is certainly defined for a plus epsilon to b. Whenever it is defined for on the closed interval a to b, so if you take any epsilon greater than 0, okay, then it will be goes to a plus f. So it's going to be limit epsilon tends to 0 as integration a plus epsilon to b. So at that you are going to take, so you are going to evaluate this integral and then you take apply limit epsilon tends to 0. Now similarly at the right hand point, if this happens, if f is continuous on close a but open b and is discontinuous at b, then integration a to b f of x dx. Now see, if you consider b plus epsilon here, we don't know about the function because it is ending, it is defined on a to b close. So what you can do is instead of b plus, so you can do b minus epsilon f of x dx when you are talking about the upper limit. So limit epsilon tends to 0, this happens. So if this limit exists, then we say that this proper integral converges. If this limit exists, this improper integral converges in the case when discontinuity at b and this is discontinuity at a. Okay. Now similarly for the third thing, if suppose it is continuous everywhere on the closed interval ab except at one point. Okay, so let's say if f is discontinuous at C, where C is such that A less than C less than B, and it is continuous on A to C union C to B. Then this integration A to B f of x dx is equals to defined as A to C plus C to B. Okay, now since C is a point of discontinuity, we are going to use this first part here. So this is C. So limit epsilon 1 tends to 0. So A to C minus epsilon. When you have the upper limit C minus, so epsilon 1. Limit epsilon 2 tends to 0. When you have the lower limit, you are going to take C plus epsilon 2 to P f of x dx. So if both the limiters exist, then we say that this improper integral converges. Otherwise, it diverges. Okay, right. So these are the like your part of syllabus, and what else is there are some test function test also, comparison tests are also available. Okay, so means it is in the same way what you have seen in the case of sequences. Okay, so I just list out the test. Okay, two tests I will list out here. Okay, and then during the tutorial we will look at some problems. Okay, right. So the first test is, which is also known as comparison test. So let f and g be continuous on this with 0 less than equals to f less than equals to z for all x greater than equals to a. So f of x here g of x means this is such that. So you can guess here. So if this integration a to infinity g converges, then integration a to infinity f converges. If integration a to infinity f diverges, then integration a to infinity g diverges. So that's very straightforward. Then integration a to infinity f converges if integration a to infinity g of x dx converges. So this is one first, and another is second integration of a to infinity g of x dx diverges if integration a to infinity f of x dx diverges. Okay, right.